The Dido is a Tier 5 premium Royal Navy cruiser. You could also say it's a freemium. It was released in the August 2025 update, and it's available for purchase through a bundle chain in the store called the Party at Sea bundle. In order to get it, you'll have to spend 3,750 pinatitas to get the Prince Blip Commander guys. After that, the next thing on the bundle chain is the Dido for 10,000 pinatitas. That's a total of 13,750 pinatitas. And you should be able to obtain all of them for free, theoretically. You can get 750 of them from the free gift in the store if you haven't already redeemed that. You can get 6,000 after completing the campaign with the free Admiralty backing, 3,000 from the birthday calendar, 1,000 a week from the weekly assignments for a total of 5K at the end of the update, and then Wind Roses 100 per legendary tier ship. So theoretically, 14,750 in total, which would make the Dido 100% free, provided you don't use the pinatitas to buy anything else. And I would say the Dido is worth it. It's an excellent little British Tier 5 light cruiser from what I've seen. We'll run down the stats, of course, but as we move into position here on the far side of the map, I will show you my commander build. It is Fraser. I always like to try to use a free-to-play commander to test out these premiums initially. I don't know if this is the build I would ultimately recommend, but it certainly works for the Dido. Now, as for the stats on this thing, it doesn't have a lot of HP, 29,500, so fairly vulnerable to being sunk quite easily. However, it's got something to improve its survivability, and you see that in effect here, the smoke screen that we're deploying as we open fire on the Fuso. These are 6 British destroyer smokes, which are some of the best in the game when you put them on a destroyer, and pretty good for cruisers. They have a dispersion time of 40 seconds, and then of course they dissipate, but they've got a reload time of 68.6 seconds. So by the time the smoke screen is completely faded, you've got about 20 seconds before the next one is available on cooldown. And so you can protect yourself by sitting inside of these smoke screens and, opening fire on battleships like that. And that's good because there is no option on this ship for a heal, which is something unique to the British light cruiser tech tree line. Even the lower tier ones have heals. They also have no armor, much like this thing. But if you've got no armor and you've got a smoke screen like this, well, you can survive for quite a long time. We've also got the sonar consumable, typical British one with a torpedo acquisition range of 3 km, ship acquisition of 4.2, 94-second duration, and 176-second cooldown time. You can change out the sonar for DFAA if you so choose. And then finally, we've got the main battery reload booster in the third consumable slot. 2 of them base, I believe, but with our commander build using Fraser and fully packed, we've got 3 of them. Quite nice. You can use them to sort of guarantee fires. I think we kind of did that on the Fuso initially, although we might have lit our permafire by the time the reload booster was depleted. Not quite sure, but that's one use for it. Or if cruisers give you broadside, you can use the reload booster to pump citadels into that broadside with this thing's AP, which I've found is actually really good, along with the HE. As for the stats, this thing has 10 133mm guns in 5 double turrets. 133 is a very interesting caliber size. I don't know that any British ship, or many ships for that matter, have 133mm guns, but essentially, those are destroyer caliber. The Russian destroyers have 130mm guns. The French ones have, I think, a little over 130. It might be like 136 or something. So these are definitely destroyer caliber guns on a cruiser, and probably they don't have a ton of pen, but I think they at least do pen 25mm. Not 100% sure on that. What I do know is that with this build, they've got a 15.7 kilometer range, an 8-second reload, a fairly snappy turret traverse, but also, relative to the gun size, kind of slow, 18-second 180-degree turn time. The HE shell damage is a maximum of 1900 with an 8% fire chance, and something on the Fraser build is making the maximum AP shell damage 2754. We'll get some examples of this AP at longer ranges hitting citadels. I've honestly been impressed in it. The very first match I played in the Dido was on my stream on Saturday. I had not played the ship prior to that point, and in that match I managed to get some citadels on broadside Aobas at like 8 kilometers, which sort of surprised me. 8 kilometers is a fairly long distance for destroyer caliber guns like this, and the shell arcs are very floaty. But this AP obviously has some very good pen, and spoiler alert, we'll see a bunch of citadels on the enemy CV, who, as we move into position here to try to take the alpha cap, I think we're going to end up spotting, if memory serves me right. And if we go closer to this island, we'll get a little bit of use out of that sonar consumable. We've got the Rasputin ship somewhere behind this island, and if we deploy sonar, well, we can spot him for our teammates. We got a battleship moving into position that's going to fight him. We could shoot at the Ranger, but I was thinking if I shoot at him, I might get spotted. Well, I would get spotted by the Ranger, actually, and I don't know if anybody's got shots on me, so best to take the cap before we open fire. Also, you'll have noticed that we launched some torpedoes earlier. The Dido does come equipped with those. It's got 2 launchers on either side of the ship, each with a total of 3 torpedoes. They have a very quick 72-second reload time. They hit for a nice 15,860 damage with a 1.3 kilometer detect by sea. There's a citadel, by the way, on the Ranger. Not exactly impressive. I'm pretty sure you can citadel that thing with HE. But the distance that we're shooting him at is like 12 kilometers. So you can kind of see the nice AP pen on the Dido. The torpedoes have a range of 8.8 kilometers, and they go at 61 knots. Not exactly the fastest, and that 8.8 is using one of the skills on Fraser. I believe the base range is 8 km flat. As for the anti-aircraft guns, I guess it's got some firepower. I've had the thing shoot down some planes, and of course CVs infest Tier 5, so you're likely to see them all the time. I don't think the CV in this battle is going to be harassing us too much, though, so we probably won't get a good example of that. The maneuverability here, this thing has a top speed of 34.8 knots, although for some reason to me it feels a lot slower than that. It's got an excellent turning circle of 580 meters and a rudder shift of 6.5. And then with my build using Mikawa as one of the inspirations, we've got a 9.7 kilometer detectability by sea, so we're pretty stealthy. And basically what we've got here is a light cruiser that sort of cosplays as a British gunboat destroyer, using these smoke screens and its 10 guns to wreak havoc against enemy ships. It's a good experience. Not if you're that Ranger. He goes down for our first kill of the game. But it's a good experience if you're playing the Dido against any other Tier 5 cruiser. And the fact that you could get this for free by spending these piñatitas that you can grind out for free, I'd say that's a good deal. The other choice is in another bundle. It's the Pan-Asian cruiser, the Irian, which is essentially a Kutuzov hull. We're going to have to cover that one more extensively in its own video. But in order to get that one, I think you would end up having to spend money. In the Dido bundle, there's only one thing before the ship itself, which is that Prince Blip Commander guys. But in the Irian bundle, there are 2 items before the actual ship. The cost, in terms of piñatitas for both, is the same at a flat 10K. However, the 2 bundles that precede the Irian in that chain, I don't know what the cost of those 2 bundles are. One of them is for a crate, the other's for an insignia or 2. I actually bought those bundles when the update dropped. I want to say I spent something like 3,000 or 4,000 piñatitas on them. Can't remember, unfortunately. But I would bet that if you did the math, by the time you buy those 2 bundles, you probably almost have enough for Irian, but not quite. And then you would have to spend some money to buy the extra pinatitas yourself. By the way, before I forget, you see there as we deploy that smoke screen, this does have those British acceleration and deceleration parameters, I think, because this thing glides quite a bit when you pull back the throttle to stop or full reverse. And so when you're deploying a smoke screen, you got to be mindful of that. You could very easily glide out when you don't mean to, and you certainly don't want to be giving broadside to battleships when you're playing the Dido, because like all the other British light cruisers, it's coated in 13 millimeters of armor everywhere, which can be overmatched by practically everything, and penned by practically everything for that matter. And of course, the Citadel sits well above the waterline. It's a big old box in the middle of the ship, and it should be very easy to hit. And of course, with only 29,500 HP, this should be a very dev-strikeable cruiser. The match is winding down now. We've run out of smoke, launching some torpedoes at Tennessee. Might even get a hit here. He's going to be shooting at us too. Thankfully, the Mutsu out there has not discovered the value of the armor-piercing shell. He keeps sending HE our way, which is a nice thing. But, of course, Tennessee, he's sending AP. I think he's just getting overpens, though. Not quite sure why that is. Maybe our angle and his aim is making the shells miss our Citadel. But I'm pretty convinced this thing can be easily dev-struck. I haven't had the opportunity to be dev-struck myself in the thing. These smoke screens are just too useful in preventing that. But Tennessee goes down. We're over 100,000 damage in this light Tier 5 cruiser, and all that's left is the Mutsu, so it's just a matter of who's going to sink him and end this battle in our glorious victory. Can't remember who it is, but I don't think it's me. In any case, I found my time with the Dido to be quite fun and refreshing. I think it's a nice little British light cruiser. Again, it's a bit of a cruiser cosplaying as a destroyer, but there's nothing wrong with that playstyle apart from if you expose the Citadel to an enemy battleship and they dev strike you. Otherwise, you can have a really, really fun time, I think, in this little cruiser. I certainly have. And I think if I was looking for a thing to spend these pinatitas on, I might do it on just the commander progression items like insignias and stuff like that, just because those are pretty scarce in the game, and I am desperately in need of them for a lot of commanders that I'd like to rank up. But of course I need the insignias for that. So I might do that, but if I wasn't in that kind of position and I wanted a Tier 5 cruiser, this thing would be an excellent choice. I honestly really like the thing, and the fact that you can get it for free just makes it, in my mind, even more desirable ship. Battle ends, 2,500 base XP on our part. And yeah, the Dido definitely gets a good recommendation for me. Nice ship. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.